Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest Just Nick Studio cut file layout using the Quatrefoil Circle cut file. So I've cut it from a very pale blue cardstock and I wanted it to fit the circle in the centre of this pattern paper, so I actually measured it to get the circle the right circumference. So these are the two photos, snowy photos that I wanted to use, and I'm also going to use a hip kit from last year, I believe, maybe the year before, featuring Make-A-Wish, which was their own range, and some crepe paper snowflake. So that's definitely a couple of years ago. So I'm just going to go through the kit, see what embellishments I like that would go with this cut file. I'm thinking blues and pinks mainly, so I'm going to have I'm going to separate out, well, initially the ones that take my fancy. They may not all make the final cut, but I'm really taken by all the snowflakes. They're really nice. I did look at some chipboard at the very beginning, but I do find that the snowflake range has actually got a bit of a cream base, where the hip kit range, Make-A-Wish, is actually white base. So even though I'd seen a title that I liked, I put it back on the chipboard base. So these are Flare from the same hip kit range. I'm picking out a couple of those that I like the look of colour-wise, and I'm just going to work my way through various embellishments, just seeing what I like. These are the snowflake ones. All the things I say, I'm just dropping them on the layout, see what takes my fancy. Then I will remove all the things I don't think I'm going to use, just so that I can see what's left. I find it easier, it focuses my mind a little bit better if I actually do a cull and then come back to the things that took my fancy the first time. And that's what I'm doing here. Some really nice little bits and pieces in the hip kit, this one. The words and those flowers. And these are some of the snowflake stickers. So I'm having a really good look. I've just taken the back off some chipboard as well there, so it doesn't stick. So I've cut the cut file again, this time in white cardstock. And I came up with the idea that I actually wanted to fill some of the gaps in the original cut file with, they're like petal shapes, potentially in the shape of like snowflakes. So I'm actually going to use, these are the Artist Loft metallic paints. I'm going to use a pale pink. I'm using that alphabet on the left just as a colour reference, really, just to help me get the shade of pink right. And there's one in the palette that seems perfect. And I'm painting the petals that are in like a circle shape. And then I will pick another colour and I'll do the ones in the centres as well. Whether you can see this in the final layout, that the circles and centres, I'm not so sure. But this is what the idea started as, so that's what I'm going with. This isn't the first time I've painted straight onto a cutting mat. I think it's really quite useful. This way I'm going to be able to keep all the pieces in the right place, because even though they look identical, actually not all of those petals are the same shape. So this way, when I lift them into the main cut file, I'll know exactly where they belong. I find that really useful. And as long as you don't over water the cardstock, it doesn't affect the cutting mat at all. And this is just normal cardstock, so I really don't want to add too much water to it. So I found a blue. It's not quite the right colour, but as I water it down and as it dries, I'm happier with it. So I go ahead and colour in some of the centre petals with this bluish shade. I just think it goes with a nice wintry cold feel with the icy tones. Just that little bit of shimmer just adds to the whole feel. So it was very easy to resize this cut file. And I mean, if you wanted to and you weren't sure, you could always cut it in some waste cardstock first, just to make sure you had got the sizing right for if you were going to size it to fit in a circle like I did. But there's a little bit of a leeway with this cut file because there is a band all the way around the circle, so it worked really well. So I've brought in the dry petals and using, and I'm going to slot them into the blue that I'd cut the first time. So just working slowly, I'm going to just pop them in there at place, and so that I know exactly where they fit. And it will be easier as well this way, that the blues and the pinks end up exactly where I want. So I've done that off camera. You don't really need to see me do that. But I've only stuck the petals in by the centre, so you may feel there's a little bit of dimension to them because they're actually sticking up at the ends. That's because the card got wet, obviously. But I really like the way that looks, so I'm coming back in laying out the pieces around it. But I think the cut file looks really good there in the centre. So I don't want to cover too much of it. But I'm now, obviously I've got less supplies around me because I'd actually done that cull at the beginning. And I'm just going to put them back into the places that I thought they looked good in. I'm going with a Hello Winter, which will become the title when I start to add things in. I want to get some sort of paper under the photos, but not too much. I don't want to detract from the cut file. So all the little bits that I'd saved, I've brought back in just so I can have a look. The snowflake thickers have appeared on the right there. They've got a lovely coppery metallic look, which I think go really well and add another dimension to this frosty page. So I'm going to cut the snowflakes out of that as well. They're still on the backing, so I can move them around while I finally get them into position. I'm thinking I need to go with an odd number just because that always looks good, so I will probably use 3 or 5 of those or whatever's, and have a look what's left. Some of that's been used on a previous layout, so it's not the first time I've used these. So I'm just having a little look. I want to go around the edge so it's not a full circle, but maybe 2 clusters opposite each other, but leaving enough of the cut file free to be seen in the centre. This is a really easy technique, just to colour the pieces yourself. I could have cut them with just from cardstock to go in the centre, but I really like the idea of them having a metallic sheen. So it's just another way of doing things. So I'm just trying to, whether to add another phrase, but I think maybe there's enough copper coloured on there at the moment. Do check out the cut files at Just Nick Studio. There's new ones being added all the time. There's some really great ones that's worth checking out and using, and I find them really easy to cut on my silhouette. So if you get the chance, do take a look. If you like this layout, please follow this YouTube channel or give it the layout a thumbs up. You can also find me on Instagram. So I've actually stuck this down off camera because you don't need to see me using some sticky pads particularly. I really like the dimension that this cut file is given, and there's some close-ups and the full image coming now. So if you like what you see, please follow my channel, and I hope to see you again here soon. Bye for now.